everybody. Welcome to the Leader to Leader podcast, the show where we dig into the stories, strategies, and breakthrough moments that shape great leadership in today's fast-changing world. I'm your host, Tom Athenour, and this episode is brought to you by the StarQuest Group. We talk a lot these days about organizational transformation, and sometimes it means a simple organizational restructure, a new org chart, while other times it's a full-on reinvention, a changing of corporate culture, redefining strategies, maybe even reshaping an entire industry. Back in 2014, one of the biggest transformations in modern business history kicked off at Microsoft when Satya Nadella took over the reins as CEO from Steve Balmer. Today, Satya is largely credited with changing the business of Microsoft from a traditional software company to a cloud-first, mobile-first powerhouse, estimated today with a market cap of north of 3.6 trillion US dollars. My guest today is Takuya Hirano. Takuya was president and CEO of Microsoft Japan and was part of the executive team driving this transformation. He had a front row seat to how Nadella and the executive team, his fellow colleagues, reshaped Microsoft's culture and strategy from the inside out. And he's about to share a bit of that transformational journey with all of us. Takuya left Microsoft in 2023 after 17 years, and he is currently on several boards, including Fujitsu. He's also an executive advisor with KKR Co. and Honda Motor Company. He is the co-founder of Three Fields Advisors, a consulting firm that helps businesses scale internationally by providing expert advice on market expansion, mergers and acquisitions, partnerships, and market analysis. Our conversation is a fascinating look into what it really takes to lead transformation. So let's dive in. All right. Welcome, Takuya. Great to have you on the L2L podcast.
Thank you for having me, Tom.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I really appreciate you carving out some time to share some of your insights around what you've learned in your very impressive career and how you might be able to help our leaders, our listeners, perhaps maybe have a little bit of a framework around thinking about transformation and what is required organizationally and as leaders, what we're called to be looking at as we approach this age of AI. So
Yes.
that's where we're going to be going.
Okay. Very good.
Awesome.
Very good.
So before we launch into that, if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit with our listeners about you, kind of a little bit about your background and what you're currently doing today.
Sure. My background, professionally speaking, I worked for several companies, but most of my career was with Microsoft, where I had a position drawing strategy for Microsoft Japan, specifically leading the consulting practice, head of the sales. But I also led Microsoft Central Eastern Europe, as well as Central Asia, 25 unique countries with 90% piracy rate. There are many Microsoft fans and users, but none of them really paying for it. How do you sell product? That's a separate conversation. Coming back from there, I led Microsoft Japan as a CEO of the operation. And later on, I became the VP of Microsoft headquarters. Now, I left the company about 3-4 years ago. I sit on the board for different companies, advise large companies such as Honda and so forth. I work with private equity to re-energize many companies, as well as helping startup company, hobby project, doing a lot of great farm in Japan as well, to kind of figure out how to make farming, agriculture more exciting for the farming, especially for the younger generation. So many different kind of projects that triggers my curiosity and interest.
Yeah. So what are you seeing out there in the grand scheme of things that is rapidly changing? And then we'll talk a little bit about your experience at Microsoft, but are some big macro trends that you're seeing?
I mean, we all talk about AI. It's a huge, huge thing. And then the different companies, different leadership, they're trying to figure out how to embrace this new technology trend, what it means to them, business practice. But it's not only about technology, but it impacts our culture, leadership. How can you be courageous or how to be smart about it? It's a transformational time for many businesses today.
And what is are there certain challenges that you're seeing out there right now relative to embracing this new world of how work is done and how do you lead? Are there some things that you're seeing?
Yeah, especially. Yes, especially when the company has a very successful practice, long history, tradition. These companies are struggling to think and embrace and frame how to change the business. The transformation of the organization becomes much more challenging
Yeah.
versus new technology aligned with the software or technology industry. I mean, their DNA or their code is if you don't change, you die. Versus company with a massive successful practice, it's not. It's not about changing. It's not. It's more about how to build upon the legacy and the brand and reputation. Same worldview. Not I won't say same worldview. Same world that we exist in, but the worldview is different depending on the company. So, my big thesis of my business and leadership is around transformation. So, how they look at the world is different and the approach is different. So, that becomes a huge challenge for many companies.
Yeah. So let's along the lines of changing worldviews and how companies look at that and transformation. In our pre-interview discussion, you were talking about the transformation that happened at Microsoft. And so I want to go back and visit that because it was significant and there were
Yeah.
a lot of best practices that came from that experience. And so
Yes.
so take us back to that time when the change of leadership happened and how that all played out.
Yeah, sure. I think it happened around the big change happened around 2014, 15. And I remember this vividly because that's that year when I became the CEO of Microsoft Japan. It's the same time that the CEO of Microsoft headquarters changed from Steve Balmer to Satya Nadella. So I remember very vividly, and I had to kind of go through the transformation journey globally, but echoing that within Japan. What happened was, as you know, Microsoft, founded by Bill Gates, super successful with Windows. And the strategy was Windows everywhere. Windows, 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 everything everywhere. Bring customer to the wonderful world of Windows and Microsoft, which was great for Microsoft because we were generating a lot of money. But at the same time, customers were feeling they were trapped within this Microsoft ecosystem in the wall. And part of the employees were really excited. They loved the company, but we feel like little off. Something was wrong or
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
Because around then the cloud technology was coming in, open source was kicking in, and Microsoft saying that no, it has to be on Microsoft. Then the new leadership came, Satya Nadella came and said, hmm, we're going to do things a little differently. Primarily because the world is different. So he did not start from how to sell more Microsoft product, but he started by saying, what is the worldview today? Where do we stand? Why does Microsoft exist? He started asking these very fundamental questions very, very openly, which triggered series of questions, series of reviewing of the existing strategy, including much more fundamental Microsoft culture, and one after another. Ended up changing the strategy, culture, operation, leadership development, people development, partner ecosystem. I mean, really changed everything. Pricing model. And great to talk like this, but really implementing operationally from the HR, from the people point of view, even our livelihood and how we think about the business, he shifted altogether.
Yeah.
So
So I want to go back just a little bit.
within 2014, 15, that's how that whole transformation started.
Yeah. So you were part of the executive team back then.
Yes.
I'm curious, what was going through your mind and your peers, your colleagues, when this whole shift in was laid out
Yeah.
for you personally?
Yeah. Well, personally, or let me start from like a bigger
Okay.
landscape.
Okay. Yeah.
So any company, especially a larger organization, do employee survey annually, at least once a year. And you see all these questions and the leaders are encouraged to improve those points. If you're already high, then maintain, do not drop it. You know the story.
Yeah.
And then generally speaking, across the world, Microsoft, the employee sat is pretty high. But consistently, there's one question that was low, which was really concerning. Everyone loved Microsoft. Everyone's devoted, committed. Yes, yes, yes. Microsoft's DNA was software. Yes, 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 yes. But on the question of, do you believe that Microsoft is on the right strategy, that we're relevant, implied?
Yeah.
That score was low. So people felt that something was off. That's what I meant previously, that people felt that we love the company, but something off, particularly strategy, direction, where we are. As I mentioned previously, the world was shifting to open source cloud technology, and then people are kind of start shaking hands here and there. But we are Microsoft dominant. We're number one, and we're gonna
Yeah.
pound everyone and punch
Yeah.
everyone and we're the right. So that was a sense. So as a leader, you're really committed. We have a operational leadership success kind of manual, how we're going to be successful. But gut feeling, we knew, and I felt that something has to change. But
Okay.
many of us didn't know what it mean and what's that picture look like. So that was a starting point for many of us, including myself. So when the shift happened, and the new leadership, Satya said, no, we're not leader. We are challengers. We're like, what? We're number one. We're killing it. We're
Yeah.
growing it.
Yeah.
We said like, we're challengers. What? When the leader says, um, we're going to make Windows free for everyone because our mission is enable every individual and organization on the planet to achieve more. That means people who are using Windows or Microsoft, or people are not using Microsoft, we're going to help them achieve more. I'm thinking confusion. What do you mean helping the customer, helping not customer, people who are not using Microsoft product, helping them to achieve more without you? What does it mean?
Yeah.
There are a
Yeah.
lot of confusion and exciting, but unclear message out there. So when the CEO start wearing "I love open source" T-shirt, when Steve Balmer and Bill Gates said we're gonna kill them, that was kind of powerful message. When this
It's basically, don't wear that shirt, right?
no, and then during the company all hands meeting or leadership meeting, on the stage there was a blender, and then the leader threw in an iPhone and put the blender on it. We're gonna kill them, destroy them. But new leader goes to the Apple's major conference and announcing that we're going to make Office available on iOS before Windows. We're like, what he's doing? I mean, it's exciting but confusing. When Satya became the CEO, probably first couple months, he flew out to Silicon Valley and start knocking on the door to all of our competitors and start shaking hands and say, hi, let's do business together. That was really
Holy
cool.
smokes. I mean, that is a 180, complete
Yeah.
180.
So
Yeah.
people talk about leadership, talk about strategy and mission and big, bold ideas and everything. But operationally, often they don't change.
Yeah.
But when you see the symbolic gestures and the action happening, you kind of start believing that, okay, this is the real thing. I'm going to pay attention and I'm going to learn how he's doing it, and I'm going to take action. Because let me kind of come back to the fundamental
Okay.
of the trigger point of the change. As I mentioned, when the change started, Satya and the new leadership did not start talking about how we're going to increase the revenue or how we're going to dominate the market. That was the previous leadership thinking. And then that was kind of a culture that we had. We do not lose, we fight, we beat no matter what. That was the message. The new leadership, first question was, as I mentioned, why does Microsoft exist? What's the worldview? And the worldview statement was that it's a world of intelligent cloud and intelligent edge meaning devices, PC,
Okay.
phone, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
We never had this statement before. but it kind of had us grounded. Okay, this is the worldview that we're operating in. Then the question triggers: are we relevant, and why do we exist? Much more philosophical question that he asked over and over. So I remember, like, first several months, even 6 months, publicly speaking, he did not talk about growing revenue. He did not talk about growing business, but keep asking and reminding us this question over and over and over and over again. And it came with the statement of, we're here to, enable and help individual and organization to achieve more. And then our culture statement was growth mindset, versus the previous culture was learn everything, know everything. You have to know and learn everything. Whereas the new culture was, it's okay. You don't have to know everything. You just keep learning, keep growing, have this appetite, have this kind of a eagerness to learn. You don't have to be perfect. Previously, we had to be perfect. The business review as a senior executive with the headquarters was 12 hours long, and you had to go with like 100 the pages of the spreadsheet, Excel. I think that's a downfall of working for Microsoft, who has Excel, but we had to come up with like data point after data point, and then for 12 hours we debate with Steve Balmer or Bill Gates or whoever, and then prove that we are right, that we have the point, and we deserve this much funding and then investment in the country, and we're allowed to battle with a top executive because that's a culture. And whoever wins that battle or the argument, we get the big fund and go back to country and gets to execute. In a way, it's a great opportunity because you learn every single detail, hundreds of pages of font size 4 with magnifying glasses. That's how we debate. But with the new culture, with the new leadership of the statement of the worldview, the question did not start with that. The meeting wasn't 12 hours without lunch or break. It was hour and a half. And then the CEO asked, I can read the data. Tell me what customer says about us. Let me know. I want to learn what the partners are telling me. I want to know about your market. That changed the entire direction of the conversation. It's a symbolic way of triggering us and letting us know that this is a growth mindset culture. So long answer to your question, but
Yeah.
that was kind of what was happening back then. There was a chaos, confusion, but symbols and ideas about what's about to happen. But when the actual conversation is so different from the previous meeting, so the conversation is a big trigger point about letting people know that it is a different world, different culture, and different company.
So would you say that marked a point in the journey of shifting from more of a product centric approach to more of a customer centric approach? Is that a fair statement? Because it sounds like there was a big focus on reaching out and being close to customers.
Yeah. Um, yes, but I'm not confused the fact that the DNA of Microsoft is
Okay.
software,
Yeah. Yeah.
is a software company.
Yes.
Whether desktop, Windows, or cloud, or AI, or whatever it may be, the DNA is software. I think that's true today.
Okay. So it was
Uh,
more of a reaching out to customers to really understand what those changing needs are, and then let that inform the strategic side of the organization on where you take it. So
yeah,
being real
and I
close
think,
to your partners and customers. Yeah.
yeah, I think so because
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you think about during the Bill Gates' leadership, no one knew the power of software.
Yeah.
And he wore the mantra of, I need to evangelize and let people know that the software will change how you think, how you work, how you operate, whatnot. And it is a Microsoft platform. So he had to push that agenda.
Yes.
He had to be ready to be ridiculed or whatever and go all the way. That was his mission. But as I mentioned, the worldview is much more based on intelligent cloud and intelligent edge, which is device.
Yeah.
By definition, you do not work, or the software do not operate on your own, meaning that you collaborate with many other companies. Unless you collaborate with this software, that platform, this different device, people cannot do more. You are limited to a very small world. So you had to reach out to customer, you had to reach out to the partner, you have to reach out to, government, whatever that unthinkable entertainment world so that people can do more and think differently. So, having this kind of worldview statement was critical. I think you have to always have to self-question and examine, you know, where do you belong in this world? The question and answer are different. I mean, 10 years ago, it was different world versus today. It's much more intelligence focused world. And then your company's approach and vision and direction will be different because of where you stand. To
Yeah.
coming back to your question, yes, it's less about the product company. You have to collaborate with customer partner because today customer may become your partner in creating a new solution or business or application. You have to have that mindset, engaging with them.
Yeah. So that you talked about the culture shift to more of that. We know what we're doing. We're clear on we're certain that this is the right strategy, to more of that growth mindset. And I remember when Satya held up that Carol Dweck's book, the growth mindset book. And I remember that because had just been published maybe a year or so ahead of time. And that was a big fundamental shift in how you thought. Talk about that and how you operationalized some of those core principles relative to at an organizational level, at different levels.
Yeah.
So what did that
Uh,
look like?
yeah. So, many companies always talk about we're going to change business. This is a transformational time.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, and then people, and often the leaders start from the strategy. Okay, this is going to be new strategy. So exciting, blah, blah, blah. And after what they do, they do that reorg, change the organization structure. People get really excited with the reorg. Okay, what job I'm gonna get? What happened to him, her? Oh, he got booted out. New leader coming in. So much excitement,
Yeah.
and then the transformation ends there often. But the foundation of the transformation business stem from the culture. What kind of culture are you establishing? And then the business strategy, yes, and then organization chart to reflect the strategy. But more importantly, people have to pay attention to how are you going to change the operationally, how are you going to reflect the strategy in new organization. I say only 10% of the company really get serious about changing operational model
Okay.
because that's the crux of it. It's so
Okay.
difficult. It's so hard to change your daily practice, changing how you do the meetings or whatever. And then finally, you have to change the compensation plan or whatnot that will reflect the operation, which is in the new organization that was defined by strategy. As I mentioned, the foundation of that has to stand on the culture. You can change all the strategy and operation, it will make some difference. But if you want to make the fundamental shift in transformational business, you have to examine the culture.
Yes.
Um,
That's what
uh,
and what I think you hit an important point that I wanted to hit and emphasize is that oftentimes organizations will see a restructure as that transformation. It's kind of transformational, but yet after the restructure settles down, that it sort of doesn't go beyond that. And
yeah,
you're saying it is so much more than a reorg,
yeah,
and you're talking about the culture shift.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then maybe, to your question, sorry, I didn't answer the question directly. I
Yes.
just went about the process and structure and so forth. When you speak about changing the culture or, modernizing culture, whatever it may be, often the answer I get is, Bataku, culture is a reflection of the past. What you have done in the past is accumulation. You don't have a direct control over culture.
Mhm.
It's accumulation of that. Some people answer, hey, taco culture is about people. I will take 10 years, whatever years, and you have to have a long-term view. I say yes and yes and yes. But you can be very intentional about changing the culture, and it's not easy, but it's possible. That's my personal experience because it was extremely painful and difficult, but it was possible. That I saw that experience that, so I tell people that it can be done
Yes.
to
Yeah.
change it. People ask, okay, how do you do it? I don't think there's a magic formula really, but clearly in Microsoft case, in my case, it was very helpful to have that statement of the growth mindset culture, and then having a active conversation around what it means. What does it mean to have growth mindset culture at Microsoft? And so you have to have a mini iteration conversation throughout the organization. CEO, the C stands for culture, but it's not only the leadership, but everyone needs to spend considerable amount of time really talking, defining what it means to you and how you behave and organize. And to do that, I recall the company having so many trainings, opportunities for the leadership to speak on this subject so many times that I got sick of it. But it was necessary
Yeah.
to really nail in and then anchor down to that point of this is a serious conversation. We need to understand there was a poster of growth mindset everywhere. And then kind of really defining what it means. There was a conversation around it. Clearly, CEO and leadership talking and acting differently. As I
Uh-huh.
mentioned earlier, wearing an I love open source
Yeah.
t-shirt and going to
Yeah.
different conversation. I remember telling my, as the CEO of Microsoft Japan, giving my team permission that I don't expect 100% quality work, which is a shocking statement in Japan
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
quality is everything. I said, I
Yeah.
don't want 100% quality. I want 80% quality in what you do. Because to me, the speed was important, and also giving them permission to make a mistake, to try something new versus trying to perfect every detail and not changing and fixing the way they do. It was very important. So I just had to give them a symbolic statement and permission to think differently and act differently. So there are many. There's no one way, but definitely clarity, giving permission. Satya gave us a permission how to think and operate. It was okay to make mistakes. Conversations, series of training. I remember one of my managers telling me that, Hirano-san, there are too many trainings. What are we supposed to work? Uh, we have to work and train and this and that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
people are excited about the transformation of the company and business. I say like 90% really bought into that idea. A couple of years later, many people dropped out. Uh,
Okay. Yeah.
not because they didn't like the company, because they tried. We gave them the chance to change, but they could not change their behavior
Yeah.
to the new world. So it's exciting, but
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily mean that everyone can keep up with this transformation change.
Yeah. In our pre episode discussion, you were talking about how the business review meetings shifted. You also talked about how the one-on-one development framework changed and how it shifted from, what you did to where are you going. Talk a
Yeah,
little bit about that, because that is a very specific example of what do you mean
yeah.
by operationalizing a culture shift.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned about strategy, organization, operation, and compensation. Or I will say rephrase this compensation as evaluation and how we talk to people, let me put it
Uh-huh.
that way. So previous, conversation about, evaluation conversation was very particular, very detailed, know everything culture. So these are your tasks. Did you do it? Yes or no? Self-evaluate, also evaluate. 5, 6 other people evaluate you and say you're good, you're bad, blah blah blah. That was
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
very cut and dry. In the new world, in the growth mindset, You still had the KPI. You had to achieve that, no question. It was not the soft and fuzzy. It's a tough culture. I'll just put it that way. Still tough
Yeah.
culture.
Yeah.
But there are like a few new questions, additional questions that was given during the evaluation period, which was, um, how did you help? How did you contribute to other people's success?
Hmm.
So it was not all about I did this, I did this, I did this, but you have to contribute and you have to be cognizant about helping other people. So anyways, that was the first question. Second,
Okay.
people,
So that was really the intent behind the question was around how are you developing or supporting others as a way to scale your leadership? If you think about what was behind the question, that's what you were getting at.
that's right.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
in the past it was I culture. I did this, I did this, I did
Okay.
this.
Yeah.
And then the organization was extremely siloed. And that was intentional that Bill Gates wanted to create an organization, a hyper elite organization bubble, then compete against one another to make best and fastest and whatnot.
Yeah.
As a
Which
culture stick,
works, right? It
it,
worked.
it worked at the cost of the customer because there are many great products. But let's say the interface was different, icon was different, user experience was different because we're competing against each other and they're a similar product that didn't really communicate to one another, but customer had to buy more because we made it so
Yeah. Yeah.
at the cost of customer and then also the culture of it. But the new question, how to contribute to other success? That's one. And then the second question was, uh, did you ask for help for others for your success? So asking for the humility that, you have to reach out to other for your advice and ideas and whatnot. So that was a second unique question. And third question was more long-term, how do you envision yourself in organization? But more importantly, how are you going to learn and how are you going to grow to achieve your dream and ambition and such? So these are like a 2, 3 questions. And unless you could answer these additive question on top of your fundamental KPI, you will not get the highest reward with an organization.
Yeah.
So you can ace everything, you can like do double of your quota, budget, sales and whatnot. But if you're not clear about contributing to other success, or if you're not clear about how you have actively asked for other support, you'll not get the highest recognition in the company.
Yeah. So it was past performance, definitely hitting the KPIs, but I'm hearing a big emphasis on where are you going and how are you growing the business, including yourself and others, as part of what gets evaluated. Yeah.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So what was going on during this time frame of transformation? What happened from a revenue perspective? Because what happened on that front? You've got these public company, you've got all these expectations out there. How were you managing the expectations? Was the revenue continue up, or was there a dip? What happened during this? Because this is a wholesale change in how you're
Right.
seeing the
It
business.
is it is a super, super challenging time, I remember, because year one as a Japan CEO, my personal experience rather than the entire company. I have a budget for office, server, whatnot, and Windows, hundreds of millions, if not billion, in Japan. And then the CEO comes with this amazing vision. We're gonna, shake hands with everyone, and then making everyone empowering and achieving and everything. Love it. So soft and fuzzy and nice and warm and everything. But there's always a general of sales up there. Say like, whip it. You got to get the number. You got to get the number.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so when the top guys say like, hey, we got to make Windows upgrade free for everyone, all of a sudden I have a huge hole of hundreds of millions of dollars worth of product that I will give it out for free, but I'm not recognizing as a revenue, but my budget didn't change. So I had to do something about it. This is a similar experience that all the leadership had to embrace it as a reality. It was very we were expected to level up as a leader.
Yeah.
We had to
Yeah.
think differently. That's a growth mindset for sure.
Yeah.
We had to do it. As a part of the transformation, it was about shifting from on-premises software, so CD or whatever, installed to all cloud. We didn't know how to sell cloud product. The on-premise software, as you know, is a one-time revenue recognition. Cloud is subscription, so you don't get one shot. You get amortized over 3, 4, 5, whatever years. So your revenue, by definition, will dip. As a company, you're investing so much in hardware or the facilities, just like data center today with the AI technology. So your profitability drop as a company. All these challenges happen. The CEO telling us cloud, 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 although 90% of revenue coming from on-premises is like cloud, cloud, all the KPIs. So I remember conversation with the CEO saying that, great cloud, but how are we going to monetize? Back then it was just like cloud, no matter
Yeah.
what, don't
Yeah.
lose. And then the CEO looking at my face, and I remember he yelled at me, said, I don't know. He didn't know how the monetization models were going to work for us and how we're going to make us profitable. But we had to believe, and we had to have courage, and uh, uh, you know, it's a big bet for organizations. So there was nothing soft or fuzzy about it, but it was about commitment and belief and the courage that we had to take a big step forward. That's what happened. But on the technical side, the technical point at the headquarters, there was a really smart thing happening because when you change a business and business model, you do not use the same measurement to measure success.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
Through this experience, I became a firm believer that uh, having the right success definition is so important. Many organizations use revenue, profitability, whatever, as definition of success, but especially
Mhm.
when you're trying to change a business model, there's more success definition. One of them that I think we did brilliantly was the headquarters, the CFO defined power index. So they knew that when you change a business model, profitability drops maybe. Fortunately, top line didn't really drop a whole lot, only 1 year. Um, and then the Wall Street will hate it. The stock price may go
Yeah.
down,
Yeah.
target impact. But courageously, the CFO said, these are the power index. The indication of transformation are this and this and this, and presented that to Wall Street and pay attention to this. And so while the profitability dropped, the top line dropped for a period of time, this transformation index just went skyrocketed. And then the Wall Street saw that and believed in Microsoft. And that's a time that the stock price just shot up crazy.
So
So
what was being measured from a power index? Because it sounds like that was a measure of the transformational success.
yes,
What were some things that were being measured?
yeah. But before going there,
Yeah.
during the Steve Ballmer's time, the revenue went up, but never went down.
Okay.
In entire history of Microsoft, over 50 years, there's only two occasions that the revenue went down. One was during that Enron crisis when everyone stopped buying
Okay.
anything.
Yeah.
A huge market, less minded it. But other than that, over 10 years during the Balmer's time, revenue up, stock price did not change, not even a penny, flat. Revenue went up. The
Hmm.
second time the revenue went down for a year was during the Satya's transformation. That was an intentional dip because we changed the business model.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
Sure.
but in that same 10 years, I believe since Satya took over the reign, the stock price is 20x right now, went up by 20 times. S-
Huge.
same 10 years, one, zero stock, performance. Another 10 years, 20x. Both leaders increased their revenue significantly. What a difference. And then coming back to your power index, it includes, cloud adoption, you know, that's one thing. There's many kind of, it was non-revenue related.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
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 So more of the adoption, activation, licensing, whatnot, and so forth. Even the internal KPI, you asked me earlier, what was the internal review business conversation I mentioned about
Yeah,
12
yeah,
hours, this backup strategy, the spreadsheet was primarily we're talking about revenue, revenue, revenue. But in the new world, revenue was and is still a very important component of it. But it was adoption, activation, retention, whatnot. Also, capability, capacity, activation within the partner ecosystem. So, it was more of a creating that ecosystem for the future growth of the license.
yeah,
So, those are kind of representation power index as well. So, as you can see, the worldview was a basis. Our culture was a new definition of how we're going to think. The mission was taken seriously. It was not a nice slogan on the wall. CEO meant it, so we have to act. Starting, shaking hand with our competitors and working and non-Windows platform and everything. And then we changed the operation model, as I discussed, just share right
yeah,
now,
yeah,
and how we valued and compensated people were based on this worldview, strategy, culture, and what we done.
yeah,
So
yeah,
when you pull these lever all together, it is so hard. It is very challenging, difficult, but you don't have to wait 10 years to change culture. The culture shifted, the operation model shifted, the business went sky high. And because of this transformation and change, Microsoft was able to have enough cash position to transition into AI era.
yeah, yeah,
Without that, you know, Microsoft is history.
yeah.
There's no way that the current Microsoft exists in an AI co-pilot technology that world. So that was a trigger point.
It's a fascinating journey. And I think that what you shared is extremely relevant to what's going on now. And I think the same practices, the ways of looking at things, the level of courage and conviction around redirecting, because we've got this thing called AI going on right now, which
Mhm.
I'm not a tech guy, but it feels a bit like that open source, that the external world changing. Um, Talk to us a little bit about this whole leadership in the age of AI, and are the challenges similar or what's different today? Because a lot of our listeners are, some of them are executives, some of them, a lot of them in the mid-level management. What do I need to be aware of as a leader if I'm trying to improve my effectiveness given this age of AI? Because a
Yeah.
lot of stuff's happening. Thoughts
Yeah.
on that?
That's a great, great question. I think everyone has to embrace this question and ask this question to themselves, especially the business leaders. Um, I hope most of the business leaders are embracing AI as a business subject, not an IT subject. Several years ago, there was got a lot of active conversation about digital transformation. Now, AI is part of the digital transformation. I think people are using more AI as a key leading word. I observed many leaders passing the digital transformation agenda to IT department, CIO. Hey, DX, CIO, look into it, strategize it, come back, let me know what we need to do, how much do you need, what's the timeline, let's do it. We're going to be great.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Yeah.
it really didn't work that way. Most of the company took that approach, failed miserably because it has to start with a business agenda. Uh, you know, you know, what is our strategy? Where do we want to go? Uh, you know, how we're gonna be a leader in this category, and how is digital or AI, IT is gonna help and enable us. So any digital transformation, anywhere that comes with the transformation, it's a CEO or business subject, not the IT subject. IT is going to be a very important component of it. AI, similar thing. I've seen, I think, many CEOs embracing AI as their business
Uh-huh.
imperative,
Yeah.
but still a sufficient number of leaders saying, okay, a CIO or CTO, let me know what I need to do.
Yeah.
It's not gonna fly that way. You have to embrace as a core business subject and what's going to be imperative. During a pre-conversation, I mentioned that the framework, probably the easier way to think about this, the DX or AI conversation,
Yeah.
is around four segment, right? One is that how am I going to use AI or digital to empower my employees to do more, achieve more, to do smarter. The meetings I will have, how would it change with the AI in your place, the work impact? That's the first category.
Yes.
Second is like, how am I going to get closer to the customer using digital slash AI?
Yeah.
Uh, uh, you know, is it about sales and customers, or do you want to connect the customer to our tech division, or how are we going to get feedback most effectively, or how are we going to make their life easier, or do we need to make it a community so that there will be a greater fan base, but also we get a really good feedback cycle going on, or
Yeah.
like customers budget, customers that cycle on now. Third category is probably around the process. How we going to enhance our internal process and operation by using AI technology? How are we going to optimize the manufacturing process, the supply chain management, ecosystem, and so forth? And finally, you ask the question, and could be the harder one, is that how are we going to generate and create new product or services using digital or AI?
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably that's kind of simple four dimension that you can ask question. I'm sure there are more depending on organization, business, and such, but those are kind of four common areas.
Yeah.
And then it's not really AI led. Again, this is a business led conversation. People are the heart of the business. You empower people, the productivity goes up. How are you going to use that with AI digitally? Customer relations, the heart of the business. You get the picture.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so much of what we've been talking about is transformation and the changing external world, and the same applies today. And one of the things that we really work with our leaders on is recognizing that what you relied upon that got you to where you are today, it worked, but is it the same way of leading, managing, making decisions appropriate given where sort of new things are going? And it requires transformation, requires a release of something that got you to where you are, but is no longer serving you on where you need to go. If you think about where we are today in leadership, is that still applicable? And if it is, what is it that leaders need to be sort of loosening the grip on to allow that future movement? And that'll be my last question to you.
The first answer is yes, I think.
Okay.
Um, we always we need to learn always, right? I mean, we talked about growth mindset as Microsoft culture, but I don't think that's a Microsoft culture statement. I think that's a humanity statement. And we need to have curiosity. We need to keep learning. We need to keep changing. Change doesn't mean you change; it means growing. The growing mean that either we have to kind of I believe in having a strong self awareness.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
You need to have your personal conviction, but you need to have self check all the time, the self awareness. Where do I stand? Am I too being scared or egoistic, or is my title of the organization covering my true nature of myself, or hiding behind it or using it, whatever it may be. So I think it's super imperatively important to have this self awareness. And if you have self awareness or organizational awareness, it gives you the truth, and truth in issues or opportunities or whatever. And when you have that awareness and insight, I believe that you can do so much. I believe that it becomes unstoppable because you are so grounded and you see the truth and opportunity, everything personally and organizationally.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that's super important.
That self-awareness, Tasha Eurich wrote the book Insight with her research around self-awareness. And we all, I think our stats were like 95% of us think that we're self-aware, when in reality about 10 to 15% of us are truly self-aware. As of what's really the truth in this. How am I being seen, and how do people experience me as a leader? And I think that requires a level of humility and courage to be able to take a hard look at that, and then shift and make changes in light
Yeah.
of that insight. So this has
Yeah.
been absolutely, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just want to make comment. Often we misuse courage as doing something bold and courageous,
Yeah.
but but the biggest courage you need is to really look into yourself and ask the really hard question. I think that's part of the reason why so many leaders cringe of having 360 review of yourself, because that's a moment of truth that coming out.
Yes.
And that takes more courage than doing $1 billion investment, because it's about you and you have to see yourself holistically and understand how people are perceiving you. But anyways, I
Yeah.
just want to make that comment. And so courage is
This
super important.
and those 360s we hear of, they're incredibly valuable. And I've heard of some looking at it out of a panic, and all we do is the things that are all wrong. But in reality, you need to zoom back and say, okay, so what do I do with this feedback? And then bring that growth mindset. How
Yeah.
can I change going forward? And I think that is the critical component
Yeah. The
about.
humility and courage. Yes.
So true. So true. Takuya, this has been fantastic. I have completely enjoyed our conversation, and I know our listeners appreciate your insights and ideas around how they can do a better job of not only sort of managing teams and working with transformational initiatives, but really making a difference in a day to day. And it does require courage, and the little things do make a difference as you're trying to change culture. So thank you for your thoughts on that. How do people get a hold of you? Because we'll put that in the show notes. What's the best way, on LinkedIn, or how do they reach out to you?
Yeah. LinkedIn will be perfect. I have my profile there. So please reach out to me.
Okay. And then if they just note that they heard you on this podcast, you'll kind
Right.
of,
Just know that, you heard through Tom. That'd be great.
okay, awesome. That's great. Super. Thanks so much for your time, Takuya. It's been
Thank
a
you.
pleasure. All right. That is a wrap for this episode. That was a great conversation. And I have to say that I learned a lot. And I really appreciated how Takuya took it down to the actual one-on-one development discussions that took place, and started broad in kind of the big organizational transformation and the worldview, and how that ultimately started to shift the culture, and how it was a constant pursuit and a constant messaging and communication around this new worldview that would inform and shape Microsoft to who they are today. And it was largely informed by what was going on in the external marketplace. And so we talk about benchmarking against the external world, not just internally. That is a classic case of how that informed their new worldview. I jotted down just a couple of things that I thought were most relevant. That true organizational transformation does require a change in culture. And that's where it can be really challenging for leaders throughout, because culture change is tough. We all know that. He was talking about sort of the organizational culture change and how they step back from and redefine what success looks like, and moved away from not only those monitoring those traditional metrics, but some of those leading indicators. Their power index certainly had a big play, and what are we measuring and what are we celebrating success on, because they were correlated to driving greater results downstream. He also talked about that growth mindset around how we as leaders, and we continually talk about that in Carol Dweck's work around that growth mindset that's really fueled by learning and curiosity. And lastly, I jotted down that the age of AI is here. And so we as leaders need to learn as much as we possibly can, and not just toss it over to the digital team or the IT group to lead that charge. I summarized these key takeaways in the show notes, so check them out. Plus, we've included a way to get a hold of Takuya if you want to reach out to him via LinkedIn. If you've enjoyed today's podcast, we ask that you go to your favorite podcast platform and follow us, subscribe, and maybe even leave us a rating, because that we do appreciate that, and it does help others find us on this sea of podcasts that are out there. And so to all of you, we're wrapping up this year, 2025, and we're launching into 2026. You've done great work out there. Keep it up. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.